Hi again, Gregg Bell at CenturyLink Field following the Seahawks loss in the preseason game against the Minnesota Vikings on Thursday night, 18-11. Biggest takeaway were the 4 sacks that Seattle allowed in the first half of Russell Wilson. And the biggest takeaway for me post-game was Pete Carroll saying after the game that Russell Wilson was at least half to blame for those sacks. He said the quarterback has to get the ball out more quickly than he did. And I noticed that during the play in the first half that 2 of the sacks in particular were Wilson's fault. There was one time when they had a 1st and 10 at their own 20. Bradley Saul, the new left tackle, let his man go. Everson Griffin, the strong defensive end, has 22.5 sacks the last 2 years for Minnesota. Saul had him engaged when the pass began, and Wilson held onto the ball so long and started drifting to his right. Saul just let his man go, and Griffin walked in and got an uncontested sack. That happened one other time up the middle. One of the other sacks came when Gary Gilliam had 2 men right in front of him. The Vikings sent a safety blitz. Gilliam blocked the defensive lineman that was in front of him. The safety ran free. Alex Collins, the rookie running back, was on a play-action pass on that play. It's a tough ask to ask for a rookie running back to take a fake handoff and then look up and have to pick up a blitzing safety. Collins wasn't able to do it, and Wilson got sacked. And the other time came at the end of the first half when Gilliam appeared to have let his man go, but to his defense, there were about 6 Vikings on his side, most of them unblocked. It was an 18-yard sack. Pete Carroll's point is Wilson's got to get rid of the ball to avoid those big losses and give the offensive line a chance. Getting the ball out quickly was the formula Wilson had last season over the second half of the season when he became the first Seahawks quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards. He got the ball out so quickly then, it didn't matter what kind of offensive line protection he had. He got the ball out in 1 or 2 seconds at a time. There was one drive in the first quarter that the Seahawks were doing that. It was the only drive that they got into Minnesota territory in the first quarter and a half, and it was from Wilson throwing the ball on time quickly. And then that was when they had a 3rd and 2 and a 4th and 2. 2 Alex Collins runs netted a grand total of 1 yard. And they couldn't get the push on 4th down, and they were turn the ball over on down. So the Seahawks have no points on their starting offense has no points through 2 games and 6 drives, 2 preseason games. Though they've been in the opponent's territory at least twice. Russell Wilson, of course, throwing an interception last week at the goal line against Kansas City. So the pass protection will be the issue again coming into next Thursday's preseason game here against Dallas. But Pete Carroll made it very clear tonight that his quote was, "Russ has to help us out." On defense, the Seahawks allowed 8 points by the Vikings, and those 8 points came late in the first half after Michael Bennett, Richard Sherman, and Earl Thomas all left the game. It was a mix of second and first teamers for most of the first half for the Seahawks defense. They controlled the line of scrimmage better, I thought, tonight than they did at Kansas City, especially against the run. They look good, but the Vikings also had Sean Hill as their quarterback, the backup instead of Teddy Bridgewater. Coach's decision, the Vikings said, why Bridgewater didn't play. But overall, I thought the line of scrimmage play for the Seahawks was better. They didn't get a lot of pass rush with their front 4 and even some 5-man rushes, especially early in the game on 3rd downs. But they were better, I think, overall, and they'll take that effort. Troy Boykin looked good in rallying from an 11-0 deficit in the 3rd and 4th quarters. He tied the game. He got a touchdown drive, and then he leaped over the goal line for a 2-point conversion. Then he drove the Seahawks into position for Stephen Hausk's tying field goal with about 5.5 minutes left. But then the decisive play that determined the outcome was Boykin facing a blitz in his face. He tried to throw the ball out and get rid of it, but he did not throw it far outside enough. He threw it into the flat, but too far inside. An easy play for the defensive back to take it 54 yards the other way. That score with a little less than 2 minutes left. Boykin, though, rebounded, drove the Seahawks all the way down inside the Vikings 20. But on the next to last play of the game with about 20 seconds left and no timeouts remaining, he took a sack. And that caused a harried final play and a jump ball throw into the end zone to Antoine Goodley here in this end zone that was incomplete, and that's how the Seahawks loss ended 18-11. Pete Carroll saying that Boykin has to get the ball out and not take that sack on the next to last play. Overall, the only injuries, we saw KJ Wright leave at the end of the first half. Pete Carroll said he didn't know what that was about, but he walked into the locker room before the half ended and he didn't return, but neither did the rest of the starting defense. for the rest of the game after the second quarter. Nick Vannett limped after making a catch in the third quarter. There was no immediate word on his status either. Tony McDaniel, whom they just signed a few days ago after he'd been kayaking and hiking in Leavenworth, the defensive tackle, 31, 32 years old, he looked good. He was pretty stout in the middle in his dozen plays, tying up blockers and double teams and stuff in run lanes, exactly what he's supposed to do. He could be a find as a backup defensive tackle in the Seahawks rotation. The Seahawks defensive line played 9 up front in the first half alone, so they always use guys, and McDaniel could be someone that they didn't think they'd have even a week ago. The Seahawks are off tomorrow, and they'll be back to practice, off Friday and Saturday for that matter. They'll be back to practice in Renton on Sunday, and as I said, their next preseason game is next Thursday against Dallas here at CenturyLink Field. Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.